Welcome to another episode of Dear Van.
Okay, so we back to your screens. Today we yet another insightful, episode. Um, as usual, we'll need you to go out there, share the feed, let family and friends know that we started. So let's give ourselves a few seconds to share the feed, and then we can continue. And we about 5 minutes late. Forgive us for that. Um, we had to sort out one or two things, so just forgive us. Yeah, find a place in your heart to forgive us. Um, okay, so yep, I just shared mine, and yeah. So as usual, if you think it's share worthy, go out there, share it, and we would also be looking out for your inputs, your comments during the this episode. We've been speaking about physical separation in marriage, and I like the fact that Prissy was giving us some advantages to it. I'm yet to find the advantages yet, but Prissy has very good advantages to it. Now, sometimes life happens, right? Sometimes it's not like people willingly walk into a situation where like they are separated, right? Like wife is staying somewhere, husband is staying somewhere, kids are also elsewhere. Sometimes life happens, and today what we want to focus on is the assessment part of this whole topic. And so when you are presented with the opportunity to um, fall into that situation, what are the factors that you look at, right? It's all about opportunity cost. It's all about what makes more sense to the whole family in the long run, right? So there is no hard and fast rule that would say, okay, no, don't ever leave the geographical location or geographic location where your wife lives. I mean, don't ever move an inch from your wife, or don't ever do it. I mean, there is nothing like that, right? It's all about what the options are, what is presented to you, and how that actually impacts your marriage, right? And so today we're going to explore that. Prissy, I know um, maybe it's just a bias up there, but when it comes to separation, because ladies tend to be more emotional and want a lot of affection, it seems to affect ladies the more. True or false? Am I thinking right? Oh, unfortunately, we had Prissy's feed drop. Okay, Prissy is back. Good. Yeah, Prissy, did you get my question?
Yeah,
Yeah. So, do you think? Oh, it's gone back again.
yeah.
Do you think that?
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. I can hear you. Can you hear me as well? Can you hear me? Looks like we're having some technical difficulty here. Prissy doesn't seem to hear me. Um, Prissy, let me know when you can hear me. Can you hear
Yeah,
me?
somebody
Okay.
called.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's fine. So, um, now, do you think that ladies feel it the more when there is like physical separation because they are more of the emotional beings?
It depends.
Okay, what does it depend on?
It generally depends on. your temperament, how you were raised, and all that. If you are
Okay.
more of the independent type, right?
Okay.
I believe that even men, we are
Mm-hmm.
all emotional when it comes to the separation, but it all
Okay.
depends on your coping strategy. Are you able to cope if your
Yeah.
spouse is not around? If everything about your daily life is dependent on your spouse? And for ladies, like for instance, even if you have a car, there are some ladies who cannot even drive to the filling station to have their fuel tank filled by themselves.
Yeah.
Their spouses do that for them. So
Yeah.
having one spouse away means that you have to double up as both the man and the woman at home. So if you are the type that um, you are so dependent on your spouse for everything, then it's even more difficult for you because it is
Right.
like you have to readjust. But then if you are also the type that is capable of doing things by yourself,
Okay.
yeah, you feel the emotions anyway, but
Mm-hmm.
it's not as hard as the one
Right.
that can't
That is fully dependent.
self. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. That's fine. So now let's take the assessment. Um, Sometimes one party is presented with a good financial opportunity, right? To move elsewhere to work. I mean, and if you really put everything in context, it looks like this is going to be good for the family. How difficult is it to look at just the monetary aspect and allow or accept for your husband to be elsewhere? Can money be a real motivation to actually?
Yes, it can,
Okay.
because let's assume we are like living from hand to mouth,
Okay.
and usually we say that when there is money answers all.
Yeah.
So
Right.
there's a lot that money can do. It can't do
Okay.
everything, but it does a lot. Even
Okay.
happiness in marriage. Sometimes all these quarrels, little bit of quarrels we have here and there, is all about money.
Right.
So if there's an opportunity to make some money so that some of this conflict will go down, and then you can decide to go for it. Or
Okay.
because for me, I believe that everything we do in life is a risk.
Right.
Deciding not to take an opportunity is a risk.
Right.
And then going after that opportunity is also a risk.
Yeah.
So which of the risk do you want?
Yeah. Right.
So yeah. So I believe that it depends on what you two want in life.
Okay. Okay. So you would consider a couple that would say, "Oh, because we want to be with each other and everything, no, we can't do this." Would you consider them as not thinking correctly? Or
Sometimes I
if
sometimes I
that's what?
believe it because
Yeah.
you can have a couple who decide to
Hmm.
stick together
Yeah.
and still have things not working for them. And then
Right.
another couple have decided that they are going to take that risk.
Yeah.
And at the end of the day, they will say, "Oh, we don't want to be separated," but they'll keep running to that couple that have taken the risk for
Right.
help.
Right.
And they it's it's like you are going to burden somebody else who has decided to take a certain risk. Meanwhile, you are not ready to take that risk. You
Okay.
get it? So
Right.
in order to be self-sufficient, sometimes you need to take the risk. It's going to um prevent you from getting into some form of embarrassing situation or something. You just
Okay.
have to take it. For me, I
Oh,
believe that life itself is a risk. Everything we do
yeah.
is risk. So you just have to count your loss, your gains, and all that, and decide what you want to go for.
Right. Okay. Awesome. So, ladies and gentlemen, basically all we discussing is counting the cost when it comes to taking opportunities, taking risk to be away from your spouse. I mean, it could be usually it would be work or it could be school or something that would be out there to improve your lot, right? So if it is something you decide to go in for, although it will mean staying away from your partner temporarily, it would end up putting you in a better position, right? So that's what we're trying to look at. Then one other point is that usually we have kids in the picture, right? And that is a very big consideration as well. And before I let Prissy come in, I remember that when we were pregnant with our first boy, at a point I had to travel to work outside the country, right? So yeah, I was there for some months and came back, and the child was born, right? And after some time I had to go back again. And I remember that so at that point the child was a bit mature, maybe some months. Even you guys came to spend some time with me, came back. But after I came back in on one of the trips, I was trying to carry my son, and he didn't know me. Like he wasn't coming. I mean, he didn't want to come, right? And that really hit me, right? Because I mean, if I'm traveling all over the place trying to make the family happy, and the family I'm trying to make happy ends up not having a relationship with me, then I mean, what is the point? So that was a very big moment for me. In fact, at that point, I decided that no, whatever be the case, I'm going to work in the country and then be with the family, because I wouldn't. It really broke my heart that I would try to make life better, and I will end up losing the family I'm trying to make happy, right? And so children are a very big consideration when it comes to having to move around. Personally, one thing I am always conscious of is the fact that we only have few years to raise the children, to be with them, to impact their lives. And so if we spend a lot of that time chasing other things, then we actually narrowing the window we have to
Be with them.
be with them, and then be good role models for them. Yeah. So this is really big, right? So
Yeah.
Prissy, how do you think, do you really think it's as important a consideration to make, or you think, oh, if the child, you are getting food for the child, you're getting to feed the child, that is enough?
No. So personally, I believe that the kids, if you want the kids to be attached to you, like you want them to have that relationship with you,
Mm-hmm.
you have to stay with them. So I think that is why most of the time fathers also complain that when the kids are grown, you see that they tend to be closer to their moms and tell them more stuff that is going on in their life than the fathers, because they spend most of the time with their mothers. So how do you call it? Staying away for your kids, especially those who travel and leave their kids with maybe grandmothers, maybe both mom and dad have traveled outside, and then
Yeah.
they have grandma take over or another family member take over.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe the kids are
Of age.
old enough to come in. Sometimes they're old enough. It's not even when they are kids, maybe like
Yeah.
18. And
Yeah.
you see that it's very difficult to have that child bonding with you again.
Correct.
It will be very difficult because you've not been there for, even though you send money and everything,
Yeah.
it's like you have not been there emotionally, physically for the child throughout their life. So it's more like you are living with a stranger,
Right.
or yeah, you have a stranger as a child.
Yeah.
So I believe that that's formative years, the 0 to 18 years,
Yeah.
it comes to pass very quickly.
Yeah.
So if you can, even if the child has to stay with maybe the mother for a while and move to the father for a while, I think at least they learn to bond with each parent. It's
Right.
better than one person not being there physically,
Right.
and that person loses out on bonding and all that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Right. So, I mean, in effect, what we're saying is that you will need to have a holistic view of what that move is going to mean to the family, right? So you take a 360 look, and it might be bringing you a lot of money. It might be bringing you, it might be making you more financially stable and independent, but you have to take a holistic look. How is it going to affect the family as a unit? How is it? And then you can now take the decision whether it is worth making that move at the expense of all the other things that you might be losing out on. Because, like Prissy rightly mentioned, during those formative years, those are the years that you can really teach lessons.
And
You can,
impact, yeah,
yeah, impart whatever values you want your
yeah,
children to have. So it shouldn't be lopsided. It shouldn't always be about the money or about economic well-being and all, and then you would end up having the money, but you end up using the money to rehabilitate your kids, right? So it's very, very important to really be on the lookout for what the impact is across the board. I know usually, I mean, or sometimes when the opportunity knocks, right, you don't want to lose out on it, but you don't want that to be the reason why you don't do a thorough assessment, right? Because sometimes, say you have an opportunity and financially it's going to catapult you from 0 to like 100, right? I mean, um, because we live in a world where money means a lot to a lot of people, then the first reaction will be to go in for that. But we'll need to really look out for what the impact is on your relationship, even sometimes on your spiritual life, right? Because it's I've had the opportunity to work in different countries that practice different ways of connecting, I mean, to the America. And if you are someone who really thinks that, okay, you want to be with your children, raise them in a certain way, then you think about it. I mean, even if the movement means moving with the kids to that new environment, you need to think about what the impact will be on their upbringing, moral, spiritual, I mean, physical, and so on and so forth. And so, Prissy, what else? Which other angle do you think we should look at? I mean, when taking such a bold, life-changing decision. So, apart from the monetary aspects, apart from the kids, um, which other angle, or and of course, religion and all. Which other aspect do you think we should look at?
so you could also look at, maybe you talked about religion.
Hmm.
You can also talk about maybe their is it a
Education.
more education. Usually people tend to move from the when they are moving, you usually go for a place where you see that the grass is greener. So I don't think education will be an issue
Okay.
when people are
Okay.
moving, because nobody would want to move from a better location to a bad location, unless maybe someone who is going for how do you call it, mission work.
Right.
Yeah,
Or even like in my field of work, there are people who would move to some countries. There are countries I've been to that are not so like up there, right? So
yeah,
if there is a situation where you would have your kid with you there, then you might be looking at it as dropping a step lower. So maybe you are being rewarded very well when it comes to the finances, but it does not necessarily mean that your kid will be at a certain level when it comes to the school they can attend and all, right?
But
It's just
sometimes
like, yeah,
if you are rewarded generously,
yeah,
they are like, every country has sort of like their best,
correct.
and you can afford it. That is fine, because most of those international schools are like international grade, so it
Hopefully,
shouldn't be.
hopefully, I mean, there are schools with international attached to them, but I mean, it's just all brand, right? So
Yeah. So I'm
anyway,
talking
mhm,
about maybe the lifestyle, or let's say morality.
okay,
Yeah. So maybe you are coming from a place where certain lifestyles are not like, they are frowned upon, and
okay,
moving to a place where it is like
more liberal,
normal, yeah,
yeah,
very liberal. And so you may want to consider that, especially if you know you are not going to have time for your kids. So
right,
yeah.
right,
Yeah.
okay.
So
So if you are from a very conservative culture where a lot of things are not normal, right? Then you want to also check if this is an environment you want your child
your
to grow.
children to grow.
Yeah,
But then I believe that even in that environment, if you are
mhm,
able to raise your child, like you have the time to raise them, because kids usually imitate their parents. So
right.
if you are setting up the right example, they would
Yeah,
follow. So it's more or less like how you also carry yourself about.
yeah, yeah. And something just crossed my mind, right? It might be trivial, right? But um, regarding the lifestyle thing that you just spoke about, so in some cultures, people are very they live communally, right? Like there is like communal living. There is it's not like individualistic. You always have people coming together doing stuff and all, and it also comes with a certain mindset. Like, so if your kids are growing in such places, they are always on the lookout for other people. They are interested in like larger gatherings, larger family bondings and all. And so if you also don't want to be detached so much from your extended family, right? Or detached from that community that gives you a sense of belonging, then you would also need to consider that, because there are cultures that go like, okay, everyone for himself, and then God for us all, right? If something is happening to you, I mean, no one cares. I mean, you have your life, you need to make it work, and so on and so forth. Like, if you are in most developed countries and or first world countries, let me put it that way, and you don't have food to eat, it's not like you just walk into a family member's house and then you'll be sorted out, right? I mean, that kind of thing. You can't be hungry in some places because if you don't have food to eat, your neighbor, if you are in a compound house or a shared like compound, your neighbor can give you food to eat, and this is very normal, right? And so depending on the kind of lifestyle you want to find yourself in, the kind of lifestyle you want your kids to also adopt, then you might say, okay, no, I remember, and then I'm not going to mention any country, but back when I was into running around consulting and stuff, um, there were countries that I had projects to that I thought, oh nah, I mean, because if I'm going to stay maybe a couple of years in that country, I don't see how I'll really. And there are countries that people will consider weird that have been my best countries. Like, really enjoyed working in those countries. So yeah, there are a lot of considerations to be made. I mean, some are, even think about it. So there are countries that only allow people to dress in a certain way, right? So assuming you would be you would be there with your kids and your wife will be somewhere else, or your wife will be there with you and your kids will be somewhere else, whatever the split situation is, you ask yourself, is it something you really want to do? They might sound trivial, but in the long run, when you are living there for months and years, it's not as easy as it seems at first, right? So yeah, opportunities will come. You would want to go in for them, jump in. And personally, I'm one that jumps at opportunities. I don't. I don't.
We
I
don't
am.
get emotionally
Yeah,
attached to,
yeah, yeah. I'm not so
yeah,
emotionally attached to a lot of
attached
stuff.
to
No,
locations,
no, no, no,
items,
no, no.
properties, nothing.
It just
We
has to
can
make.
just move when we
Yeah,
feel that we have to move.
right. Exactly. So you and that is how you make opportunities work, right? But if you are also someone given to such, I mean, jumps and all, sometimes you don't really do a good or thorough 360 to figure out, okay, what of this, what of that, what of, I mean, so far as it makes sense at the high level, it's good. We just move. I remember back in the day, I would have my agencies just call and say that, hey, like they will call on a Thursday and say, hey, Vanel, we have a project for you in this country. Are you up for it? I say yes. The next day they send a ticket. Think about it. The next day, very next day. So it's more like, hey, if it's good enough and we all find, okay, we move. It's as simple as that. So we'll need to really be considerate. I mean, just assess everything and be sure that everything is okay. Because you see, you are going to miss out on a lot of things. You are going to miss out on your family. You're going to miss out on friends. You're going to miss out on whatever. So, whatever the move is, needs to make sense.
It should be worth it.
It should be worth it. Exactly. It should really be worth it. Otherwise, I mean, what's the point? You rather stay with your family. Like, for example, now myself and the kids are home and Prissy is out there in school. It is really, really worth it. I mean, if it's not worth it, then we wouldn't. What's the point? We would stay together, right? But having to move, having to be at different places is super worth it, and that is why we went in for this. Okay, Akimbola says, Akimbola puts the dollar signs there to mean that, yeah, I mean, I don't know if he means it should be, the money should be worth it or something. But yeah, that is, I tend to like being a numbers person, right? If you can put numbers to everything, you can easily make sense out of them, right? So if
I wanted to mention one last thing, and
yeah,
another thing is the quality of life.
okay,
So that is something we also considered when we wanted to move, because we realized that at some places, I had the opportunity to travel to some developed countries, and I realized that some countries, I want to put it in a better way so that some people will not be offended. Some countries value life more than others.
absolutely, yeah,
So when I realized that, I was like, no way, I have just like 70 years to live. And if this is
yeah,
how I am valued here,
yeah,
then I think I should go somewhere that my life is worth more.
yeah,
Because just by moving and living somewhere, it's not a guarantee, but the probability of you living
yeah.
longer
Life
is higher.
expectancy is higher. Yeah, correct.
Yes.
Yeah, it is right. So if you guys are on a quest to try to, so one party is moving somewhere that is better, and that is why that separation is there, because in the next few years the other family members that have been left behind will get to join, and you all have a better quality of life. Then yeah, why not? Because you life is short.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, just yesterday we were kids running around, and here we are, right? And so you want to make the best of every opportunity. But when you're trying to take advantage of those opportunities as well, make sure that holistically the whole family is catered for, or the whole family is considered whilst making those decisions. If you really do that, you would see that even though there is that physical separation between spouses or between kids and family, you have something you are looking up to. You get what I mean? It's not like scripture says, hope deferred makes the heart faint. If like there are no timelines and there are no goals you actually working towards, then it becomes so difficult. But if you've considered all that and you said that, okay, give or take in 1 or 2 years, all should be done, then you are in a better position, right? So if Prissy were to be schooling and I didn't know when she was going to complete, then it makes it so difficult to wait, right? But because there are timelines to it, and we know that, oh, by ABC, year ABC, she'll be done, then why not? You go at it. So all too soon, we at the end of our time. And we really appreciate you for joining us on today's episode as well. We'll come your way once again next week with yet another episode of The Evan. Go have a great week. Enjoy your week, and let's speak again next Saturday. Thanks, and bye for now. Always remember that no two relationships are the same. Cheers.
Bye.